Step 1. Do not tighten the scan body with too much force. In Step 2, choose a scan body with an appropriate amount of exposure.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Keun-Young, the host of Please Solve Me. Welcome to our June webinar. Unfortunately, Chen is sick this week and won't be able to make it. So, today, on her behalf, we have a TeleSTEM member from our clinic filling in. Jane, could you introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, this is Ji-Hye Kim, or you can call me Jane. I have been watching all these webinars, so it's an honor to be here today.
Thank you for joining us, Jane. Now let's get started with this month's webinar. The keyword we'll focus on today is communication. In particular, the communication between the dentist and the staff working in the clinic and the dental technician working in the lab. What comes to mind when you think of communication? In my case, it looks like this. When I think back to the days before digital, there were laboratory order sheets, phone calls to check progress, and post-it notes attached to stone models. But now, all work has been digitized. Orders are made online through Medit Link, and opinions with the technician are exchanged online through a screen share. So much has changed, but I'm not sure if this digital change in communication is more effective. So today, we are going to take the time to think about the best way to communicate in a digital environment. The pictures you see represent today's topic. The first picture depicts how to identify problems when there are huge errors in implant prosthesis occlusion. The second picture shows how to solve the problem of an ill-fitting model's crown. The third picture illustrates how to effectively order prosthesis through Medit Link. Since these topics frequently come up, we will address a combination of questions for each of these three topics. We hope this content will be useful for your clinical practice. The first question today is related to communication with the technician when making implant prosthetics. This question got a lot of comment in the basic community last month. Dr. Nguyen made a single implant crown using a fixed scan body on the maxillary posterior area, but the final crown was out of occlusion. He said that everything looks fine during the scanning process, so he could not find where it went wrong. There may have been various factors that led to such a result. Let's think about why this happened. He posted his SCAD design file and a photo of his final crown. Although there is a slight difference in the angle, the CAD file shows that the adjacent and opposite teeth are well occluded, and the design of the prosthesis seems fine too. However, the final result seems to be significantly out of occlusion by about 1 mm, so there must have been an error during the manufacturing process. He was probably very frustrated when he first tried putting in the prosthesis. Jane, have we ever had a similar situation at our clinic?
Yes, we have. There were cases where we had big differences in occlusion. We actually had one last week too.
Oh, I remember. Those cases with supraocclusion. Just like Dr. Nguyen's case, the implant was located at the rearmost area. Did you find what caused it?
Yes, this had happened before when the scan body length was not accurately stated the order form. But in this case, the scan went well and the scan body size was stated accurately. But the deformation happened while the dental technician was matching and marging the scan body on the CAD.
Oh, it's a relief that we found the cause. So we know not to make this mistake again. I can relate to what Dr. Nguyen was feeling. When it comes to implant prosthesis, communication is even more important than other prosthetic because it needs to reflect the dental intention, so it acts like the foundation. Today, we are going to go over possible causes of error during implant prosthetic treatment and talk about ways to prevent this. Let's watch a video.
What causes the implant crown to be out of occlusion?
Why did the questioner's implant prosthesis have such a large error? Identifying the cause is like finding the culprit in a mystery novel. This is because we are trying to figure out who committed the crime and why and with what weapon. Just like a detective looking for clue, let's look for a list of suspected culprits in the questioner's post. The most likely suspect is always the scan body. A peak scan body was used during the scanning process in this case. The job of scan body is to transfer positional relationship data from the mouth to a data file, during which time there are opportunities for various errors to occur. Examples of such errors include the improper connection of the scan body, errors during the matching and merging process, and mistakes in choosing the wrong pre-milled titanium blanks. All of these and more can cause vertical errors. Many users gave their opinions on what the problem was. Some had the opinion that this was an error caused by the peak material scan body, and this error would not have occurred had a metal scan body been used. Others believed the technician may not have been paying attention and matched the wrong size. Or, the dentist must have overlooked the misfit of the scan body. There were many hypotheses provided, and each one of those made sense. But we need to really consider if such factors can cause an occlusion error close to 1 mm. We need to check the range of error that various suspect factors can cause. By doing this, we can rule out the suspected criminals one by one. We will begin revisiting the process of producing a prosthesis through a scan body. The steps involved in making an implant prosthetic with the use of a scan body is as follows. Step 1. Connect the scan body and take an X-ray. Here we have to check if there is any misfit. Step 2. Scan the scan body. No deformation should occur during the scanning process. To do that, choosing the right size scan body is very important. To be more accurate, you can take advantage of the Medit software. You can register the specifications of scan body in advance so that matching will occur simultaneously with the scan. Step 3. Send an online order to the dental laboratory. Make sure the right sizes are specified in the request form. If all this is done right, then there should be no errors from the clinic side of things. Now on to step 4, which is in the hands of the laboratory. The laboratory will check the file and match the scan body to produce the final prosthesis. In fact, errors can easily occur in this process because there could be discrepancies in the matching and merging depending on scan data quality. These errors are preventable if you had matched the scan body on Medit Link in advance. The important aspect in step 4 is communication. At our clinic, if the technician feels that matching is imperfect, we do not manufacture a final prosthesis, but only a temporary crown made of PMMA material. We do one additional scan for the custom abutment in an attempt to achieve a more accurate result. If the occlusions seem to be even slightly misaligned, the technician should not proceed without consulting me. In other words, there should be an open line of communication between the technician and the dentist in step 4. If we assume that Dr. Nguyen did everything perfectly as he stated, then the mistake probably happened on the dental technician's end. How much damage can each individual suspect cause? Let's assess this. We actually found a paper that said that peak material scan bodies can cause errors. In this paper, the results showed that it can cause errors depending on the strength of the tightening torque. For example, if we tighten it with a force of more than 20 Newton centimeters, the scan body will dig in more deeply, and some vertical error may occur, resulting in prosthesis that is out of occlusion. The range of error that would lead to a clinical significant difference was found to be about 100 micrometers. However, in Dr. Nguyen's case, the error was about 1 millimeter or more, so the material is innocent. It cannot be blamed for this occlusal error. The takeaway from the paper is that the recommended force to tighten with is 5 Newton centimeters, which is a comparable force of that used to tighten the healing abutment. Then, how much vertical error can occur during the matching and merging process? This will vary significantly depending on the quality of the scan data. Let's look at a situation when trying to match, but it's not matching well. What would happen if the dental technician made unilateral decisions and worked arbitrarily during this process? A vertical error of up to half of the scan body's D-cut depth can occur. It could be up to 0.4 millimeters. However, usually, If the matching does not fit in this level, the dental technician would definitely consult with the dentist, if he is normal. Therefore, it is unlikely that this is the cause. The next suspect is the matching and merging process. How much of the scan body needs to be exposed to cause less deformation? When looking at papers related to the accuracy of the scan body, various factors such as the length, shape, and scan quality of the scan body can have an impact. According to the research article, if not enough of the scan body is exposed for matching, errors can occur during the alignment process. Therefore, it is important to select the scan body with the right amount of exposure to prevent alignment errors. In the case of Dr. Nu Win, although he didn't state the size, it might have been a posterior molar, and due to the distance between the teeth, a shorter scan body might have been used. If so, this could have been the cause for the occlusion error. Furthermore, the method of matching, whether using 3 points or 1 point, can also make a difference. Therefore, the matching and merging process is very important, and there is a high probability of errors occurring, so technicians need to pay close attention to the process. Despite errors being relatively higher at this stage, they are not extreme to the extent of 1 mm as in the case of the questioner. No matter how many research papers we went through, we couldn't find any convincing suspects. In the end, the only possible cause for millimeter scale errors was attributed to what had occurred in our clinic. Specifically, it could only result from either incorrectly stating different sizes during the clinic stage or mismatching different sizes during the lab stage in the aligning process. However, according to Dr. Nu Win's best recollection, there were no documentation errors, so the case remains a mystery. So what on earth was the culprit? Interestingly, the questioner himself revealed the culprit. The culprit was in a different place than we expected. An error occurred during the process of matching and merging, but it was due to user input error. This falls under step 3 of our classification, but step 4 also comes into play because the technician could have told him that the matching process is not normal. It shows how important communication with the technician is. Thanks to Dr. Nu Win's persistence and patience in analyzing this, we were able to finally close this case. I want to emphasize once again that if there is a faulty prosthesis, it is important to find the culprit through joint investigation between dentist and technician. So, if you encounter this kind of situation, try not to get frustrated and use this flowchart to help you find the culprit. However, the best thing to do is to take the preventive measures so that such situations could be avoided altogether. We have summarized the preventive measures we introduced today. In step 1, do not tighten the scan body with too much force. In step 2, choose a scan body with an appropriate amount of exposure and match it in advance on the Medit Link program. In step 3, verify once again that the information is accurate before ordering online. In step 4, if anything unusual is observed during the matching and merging process, the technician should communicate with the dentist immediately. If you stick this on your desk and use it as a checklist, you will be able to get a much more accurate implant prosthesis consistently. Good luck to your dental team. This is the answer to question number 1.
Why does the modeless crown not fit at all? How to overcome this?
The second question concerns communication when making model's crown. We discussed the technique for achieving a good model's crown scan during the main session. In this question, despite the scan data looking good, the prosthesis ended up being high in occlusion. If there were no issues with prosthesis when using conventional impression, but they suddenly do not fit after switching to an intraoral scan workflow, it can be quite embarrassing. Simply asking the technician to fabricate the prosthesis as if it won't occlude does not solve the problem. We need to identify the cause through communication and strive for continuous quality improvement through this process. Our clinic operates an in-house lab, but we also outsource some work to streamline our production. In the past, outsourcing a crown meant a week-long process. However, now with immediate data file transmission for scanning, remote labs can start process design in a timely manner. As a result, both in-house and outsourced production now takes just 3 days. So long as there is strong communication, outsourced labs are totally fine. What do you think of the quality of outsourced prosthetic at our clinic, Jane?
The quality has been great. The fit of the crown is almost perfect in most cases, and the shape matches well as if they were made right here in our clinic.
I agree. These outcomes reflect the collaborative effort over the past 5 years. Also, products have evolved from being imperfect when digital dentist was introduced at our clinic. This question was posted some time ago, and it sparked a heated discussion based on presented scan data. Opinions varied, with some attributing the issue to the lab skill, others to the scanning quality. However, the prevailing sentiment was that better prosthetic could be achieved if we switch labs. But in my experience, this rarely happens. I think that if the prosthetic do not fit well, a period of adaptation is crucial between the lab technician and the dentist. In our clinic, when a model's crown doesn't fit, we meticulously examine both the scan and the design file to pinpoint the issue. It means we need a system for quality control. Today, we have a video introducing our community system for this crown. Let's watch it together.
Our clinic introduced modeless crowns using the Medit i500 in 2019, which initially seemed highly innovative to me as it eliminated the need for a stone model. However, when I began treating patients with modeless crowns, I faced embarrassment because there were frequent misfits with the prosthetics. Not only was the scan quality not to my standard, but patients would also get upset because their prosthetics were not fitting properly. I found that I started to miss the old way. This was because with a stone model, I could easily diagnose fitting issues through physical trial. But with modeless crowns, since I received only the prosthetic, it was difficult to pinpoint the problems. To fix this situation, the director of the dental lab suggested taking another impression. He was sure that in doing so, I would be able to make well-fitting crowns, just like before. But I was opposed to this, emphasizing that we should adhere to the digital workflow. The dental laboratory adjusts the prosthesis based on an additional impression, ensuring it will fit right away. However, if at any point we stop providing additional impressions, the fit might be compromised again. Therefore, even amid challenges, solutions must be sought through digital methods rather than through analog ones. So what did I do? I decided to allow exactly 1 month for an adaptation period. At that time, I was still new to digital dentistry. I didn't even know there was a way to verify internal fitting using digital technology. So I insisted that 2 prosthetics be made for each case in different styles. Upon receiving both prostheses, I would deliver the one that fit better between A and B, and then provide feedback afterwards, informing the lab which one was better. After each delivery, I always documented the evaluation criteria. I kept all records in an Excel file where I evaluated and documented all cases, categorizing evaluations such as contact, margin, occlusion, shade, and fitting, and promptly sent them to the lab upon completion of delivery. As a result, around 1 month later, the prostheses suddenly started fitting well. I didn't know how this happened, but it was quite fascinating. All we did was simply give thorough feedback. This is what I learned during the 1-month adaptation period. 1. It is the wrong idea to hope that the modeless crown would fit well from the beginning without communication. Efforts for mutual communication are essential. 2. It is necessary to establish a system to enable active communication. 3. Simple A-B methods are clearly effective. However, in order to cut the workload, it would be better to utilize smart tools, taking advantage of digital technology. To summarize, what we need is a communication system and digitalized communication tools. Now let's consider building a communication system. As processes become more digital, we can obviously communicate more easily than ever before. When taking an impression, there is no way to indicate "this is where I think the margin is" on the impression body. However, the digital method can accurately convey the practitioner's intentions. There are many more ways to exchange opinions if we are willing to put in the effort, and it definitely helps achieve better results. For this to happen, it is important for the three entities, dentist, staff, and dental technician, to have assigned checkpoints. Let's visualize this in a flowchart. Here you can see everyone has a specific responsibility in the process of making a modeless crown. After each person completes their role, they check for any problems with their work before passing the task to the next person. Dentists must ensure the optimal environment is achieved after crown preparation and ask the staff to perform a scan. Staff should evaluate the scanning environment before starting, and, if it is not suitable, request for help from the dentist. Once the scan is complete, staff need to check the scan results and, if deemed perfect, forward them to the technician. The technician must evaluate the scan data immediately upon receiving the online request. If the scan data is insufficient, they should communicate this immediately and inform the clinic that it is difficult to proceed with making an accurate result. Let's look at a case that occurred at our clinic. During the process of manufacturing prosthetics through outsourcing, the staff obtained occlusal data incorrectly. If a prosthesis is manufactured in this state, the technician will have to arbitrarily predict the occlusion, which would lead to inaccurate results. However, the dental technician checked the scan data immediately after receiving the production order and immediately informed the clinic of the fact that there was an occlusion error through messenger chat. Of course, the clinic did not send the patient home, but had him return to his dental chair for a bite rescan as soon as Dr. Jiang received the message, so we were able to obtain accurate occlusion data. This example shows that immediate communication through a systematic process is very important. At our clinic, similar to the manufacturing industry, we handle modeless crowns by dividing the process into 3 key stages: before production, during production, and after production. Before production, we check the scan data in the lab and immediately set the margin position. During this process, the technician may encounter situations where it is difficult to determine which part is the correct margin. At this time, it is important to indicate the margin the technician thinks is correct and receive confirmation right away. At our clinic, we follow the principle of confirming the margin position of crowns treated on the same day through communication. It is more accurate and efficient for dentists to check immediately on the day of treatment because they remember the details better. After passing the first checkpoint, the crown design process begins. CAD design process is an intermediate step in crown production. If setting margins was done on the day of treatment, this process will usually take place the next day. Conditions we need to check when designing a crown include contour, contact, and occlusion. By confirming the final design, we can request adjustments in contact tightness in advance. If the final design confirmation is performed routinely in this way, the dentist's opinion is always reflected in all crowns, reducing the likelihood of receiving a prosthesis with an undesirable appearance. Therefore, it makes perfect sense to have checkpoints through communication during production. The following is the post-production communication process carried out on the day of delivery. The dentist already has a clear prediction of the shape and color of the prosthesis that will be delivered to the patient, thanks to strong prior communication. If something differs from what was intended, it will be noticed right away. At this point, any discrepancies should be recorded and immediately communicated to the technician. Since the entire process took place within 3 days, immediate feedback helps the technician who implemented the design. For instance, if the occlusion is high, we might take a picture of the occlusion point and send it to identify the high point. This way, the same error will not occur next time by adjusting the occlusal settings in Medit Link or by the technician changing the settings in Design Program. Through this process, the patient received the correct prosthesis without any occlusal adjustments and was very satisfied. Chair time was significantly shortened, potentially saving us a lot of money. I believe all this resulted from good communication. Here's a tip I'd like to highlight for achieving a well-fitting modeless crown that follows the digitalized method. The internal value is checked in advance through software. This new method of communication can be implemented after crown fabrication is completed and before the patient comes to the clinic for delivery. Once the crown is fabricated, its inner surface can be scanned. Through this process, we can obtain data on the three-dimensional shape of the inner surface of the final crown and match it with the scan data used to produce the crown. By doing this, you can use the software to check which parts are different and by how much, as shown in the picture in the article. This way, you can visualize which part is not correct and immediately check and correct it. Although this method is accurate, in reality, it's difficult to inspect the crown every time using a program used in the paper. To make this process easier, Medit comes with software called Crown Fit. If your crown doesn't fit well, instead of getting frustrated with the dental laboratory, ask them to check the crown fit. Just like how we check the internal state of our body with an in-body after exercise and we receive a report, we receive a color-coded report indicating where things are wrong. We can immediately identify the cause, whether it is due to incorrect preparation, an inaccurate scan, or an error in the technician's internal fit setting. After going through this process for about 5 to 10 cases, the technician will be able to set the exact internal fit value that matches the dentist's preparation style. You can quickly learn the data through visual feedback without needing extensive conversations. For today's second question, we discussed the communication system and how to collaborate with the lab to produce accurate prosthetics. Moreover, if you communicate in this digitalized way, you will likely achieve good results more easily. I emphasize once again, if you first requested a modeless crown and it did not fit, do not immediately look for a new dental laboratory. You might end up endlessly searching for new labs. Instead, try working with your current lab to improve quality in just a few cases through the type of communication we introduced today. We are confident that you will receive a satisfactory modeless crown in a much shorter time. This answers question number 2.
Can Medit Link be used to efficiently communicate with lab technicians?
The last thing we are gonna go over today is a question about communicating through Medit Link. This question was from January of this year, where Sam asked if there was a more efficient way to communicate with his technician through Medit Link. For example, he specifically asked if it is possible to send photos and get replies on Medit Link. He also requested Medit to make something like a portal where we can communicate with our lab in real time. Those are great ideas. Let's find the best way to communicate with dental technicians. In the case of our clinic, some prosthetics are produced in our in-house lab, while others are outsourced and manufactured in a remote lab. In the case of my in-house lab, the laboratory order form is written and delivered using an analog method, as if you were hand delivering a note to someone. In fact, without using Medit Link, we fill out our own order form card and deliver them, and the technician looks at each card one by one and designs the prosthesis. There are advantages to using the familiar analog method, but there are drawbacks as well, because sometimes cards can get lost and it's very time-consuming sorting the card. In house lab, we can direct talk to the technician, so there would never be a problem with communication. However, the situation is the complete opposite when the dental work is outsourced. In the second question, we mentioned that we give evaluation report on process visual in Excel files. But the problem is that there is no open line of communication or sufficient exchange between the dentist and the technician. For example, when I drew a picture of what I thought the prosthesis would look like, it was not easy to convey and explain it to a remote lab. Jane, you are in charge of communicating with the outsourced lab. Could you explain how you do your job?
Sure. Since we use an e-chart, we copy and paste the required information written on the chart and send it as an attached file. In the case of Dr. Zhang's drawing, I take pictures with my iPhone and send them as attached file. But it is true that this process is tough for me.
I agree. It's true that the process of ordering prosthesis can be done with just one click. However, simply sending a text doesn't cover all of our needs. So today, we would like to discuss ways to communicate efficiently in a digitized environment, as well as provide our clean protocol. Let's watch a video.
Based on his question, let's discuss 3 essential aspects for communication in a digital environment. The first aspect is how to efficiently place online lab orders using Medit Link. The second aspect is how to exchange opinions with technicians using a chat-like method. Lastly, let's propose a platform in the form of a portal where all communications can take place, as he suggested. Let's start by discussing efficient methods for lab orders. Good communication starts with a well-prepared lab request form. So, ideally, it should include all the necessary information for the lab work, the dentist's opinions, and detailed requirements. However, it is not practically easy to describe every case in such detail each time. And sometimes I find it more difficult to express details with the digital method compared to handwriting. Let's take diary writing as an example. As a longtime fan of the Franklin Planner, I have attempted several times to switch to the smartphone version, but ultimately failed. Although the digital method offers convenience in automatic recording and searching, I found it lacking compared to handwriting when it comes to detailing exactly what I want. Therefore, in the context of online lab orders, I believe it is necessary to fully utilize the advantages of the digital method while complementing it with analog techniques. First, let's discuss ways to maximize the advantages of the digital method. Starting from a blank state is a cumbersome task and sometimes can lead to missing important details by mistake. So, at our clinic, we do it this way. We use a pre-written form and fill in the blanks. Lab ordering begins by attaching the main format text document prepared for each computer onto Medit Link. Then, while checking the used items, enter the tooth number and accessory information for each item again. Of course, since information is selected and entered in Medit Link in advance during the registration process, the technician will be able to recognize it immediately if it is entered incorrectly. In this state, you can choose how to process it. For example, in the case of the scan body, decide whether to replace it with a ready-made abutment or create a custom abutment. Also, if you determine after scanning that the length of the ready-made abutment needs to be reduced, you can request this in advance so that the technician can proceed without any confusion. Furthermore, Dr. Zhang's personal preferences are also described below for reference. With such a detailed lab order form, we can significantly reduce the occurrence of remakes. Even if we describe details in text, there are times when we need to convey more detailed opinions. In such cases, we use the attachment feature to send photos, X-rays, and drawings. In the case information screen, you can click the attached file icon to attach files and add necessary notes. The picture below illustrates a classic technique that Dr. Zhang used 10 years ago. At that time, we would print and attach periapical X-rays with copings to all custom-made cases, draw the envisioned shape of the custom abutment on them with a marker pen, and send them to the lab. Although this method was cumbersome, it was undeniably effective. We continue to believe that a picture is superior to conveying information compared to dozens of characters of text. Therefore, we still prefer to send various detailed information as attachments. Next is the method for exchanging opinions. The questioner wondered if it is possible to chat via Medit Link, with technicians asking questions and dentists responding. Many users communicate using messenger chats. However, since video communication is not possible, there is the inconvenience of having to communicate through text messages with captured images. For more convenient communication, Medit offers a platform called Case Talk, where dentists and technicians can exchange opinions. As seen in the video, real-time conversations with technicians while viewing scan data are possible. Dr. Zhang mainly uses a method where he shares the screen in the ExoCAD design view using a remote meeting program, conducting real-time meetings. Sometimes, using the remote control function, the dentist can directly modify the design, allowing for more detailed communication and reflection of ideas. The last part is about the platform, similar to the portal suggested by the questioner, where all communication can take place. In fact, I had the opportunity to meet with a Medit developer last month, and they asked if I had any good ideas for a communication program. Although it does not exist yet, Medit plans to create a platform similar to Sam's suggestion. Therefore, I asked them to create a program like Trello. In reality, there are fixed checkpoints where communication is needed, but the problem arises because each person hesitates to communicate at those stages. So, it is important to create a system that allows communication at each stage. If we rely on chat-based communication, it is not easy to conduct online meetings in real time within a busy schedule. Therefore, it would be more practical to communicate in a way similar to the Trello program used by startups for project management, where you can see the progress stages and leave comments at each stage. So far, we have discussed how to communicate efficiently in a digital environment. I think dental prostheses are not made by the technician alone, but are a collaborative work between the dentist and the technician. Therefore, we must not forget that we always have the responsibility to communicate diligently. This concludes the answer to question 3.
This has been the June session of Please Solve Me. Thank you once again for joining us. See you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.